Well, hi, this is Alan, and I wanted to share with you uh, a spark experience. A spark occurred yesterday as I sat down with my 9-year-old and 10-year-old as part of their uh, COVID out of school education experience to do some zone tool things. And what I was thinking when we started that, hey, I might just, I was really thinking two dimensions. I was thinking, hey, we'll start off with, triangles, rectangles, pentagons, some two-dimensional things. Well, when I sat down with the girls, I happened to just focus in on one of the zone 2 balls, and you can see it there. You can see, and it just amazed me. I thought, wow, look at that um, pentagonal hole and the way that the other holes radiate out from that. There's 5 rectangular holes and 5 triangular holes. And the rectangular holes and triangular holes and pentagonal holes are all the only types of holes there are in the zone tool ball. But I was looking at it and I thought, wow, that's beautiful. And so I started talking to them about that, and they just automatically headed in their own direction. They wanted to build not two-dimensional structures, but they actually wanted to build spinners. Now, this may look a little bit two-dimensional, but it's not. You can see this is actually the remainder of a spinner that Sophie had built that was fairly successful, and then she deconstructed it, and this was the part that was remaining. Here's a spinner that I had began to work on, inspired by the girls, and then I began changing the structure of it. But anyhow, you can see that the idea is you fix it so that you can see how long you can make one of these things spin. And of course, mine's all out of balance now because it's starting the process of being constructed and deconstructed and reconstructed. So I was thinking, wow, the girls weren't thinking at all in 2 dimensions there. They're thinking in 3 dimensions and possibly 4 if you consider time and the amount of time that one of these structures can spin. And of course, one of the great names of zone tool development is Paul Hildebrandt, and he tells me that time is not a dimension. I'm still trying to get my head around that. But in any event, the girls were certainly not limiting their thought to 2 dimensions. And then as I began looking back at things they have constructed over the last year or so, I went to this one, which I've preserved. It's one that Sophie made when she was 8. She's 9 now. And I did not teach her this. I did not point her in this direction. And I just marvel at what she created here. And I wonder, could a mathematician define this? Has anything like this been built with Zone Tool before? What is this like a DNA model? What would mathematicians and geometricians say about this model that she built? But at the very least, you can say she did not default to 2 dimensions here, nor did her older sister, who is now 10, and when she built this, she was 9. This is what Valentina built, one of the things that Valentina built. And around that same time, Sophie built this. I marvel at this one because I'm still trying to figure out how she came up with this one. She just built. But, there's a hexagon, a couple of hexagons. But if you look at it, there's a certain beauty of it. Wow, it's just amazing the way there's a shift in angles, sort of a asymmetry within symmetry. And how she put that together, I thought was pretty amazing. Certainly not 2 dimensions, a lot of 3-dimensional things going on there. And this is another one that she built. I sort of marvel at this one, like it's a cubic center, but then look at all the way all those triangles work together in there. Again, certainly not 2-dimensional. Her brain was not going in 2 dimensions. And then I come back and I look at this. This is something that I built, but I built it out of an inspiration from Valentina, who was at the time, she was 9, she's 10 now. But at the very center of that, it's kind of hard to see, but there is an icosahedron, a 20-sided figure. I had actually at that time started orienting them to building an icosahedron, and they did that. And then Valentina's approach was to take the icosahedron and extend it. And after she extended, I considered that, and all I did was just replicate the extensions that she had made, and ended up with this, which is actually an icosahedron, a larger one with 20 faces, but the 20 faces consist of each one of the 20 faces consists of 4 triangles. As you can see there, we're kind of looking at one of the faces. So anyhow, it was Valentina's work of extending a 3-dimensional figure that inspired me there. And then let's take a look at this little creature over here. Another thing that Sophie has done is that she sometimes creates animal-like creatures, but again, she just never defaults to 2 dimensions, which was, of course, where I started thinking, well, what is the spark here? Well, the spark is that I'm convinced that the minds of children do not start off 2-dimensional. I believe the minds of children start off 3-dimensional. And I believe that it is our educational system that tries to constrain them in an imaginary, actually, 2-dimensional world. Because why? Well, books, pieces of paper, chalkboards, whiteboards, and we try to pour their minds into this 2-dimensional educational system. And I can remember myself when I got to the level, I think it was in junior high somewhere, what we call now middle school, I guess, where I was introduced to solid geometry, and then was expected to all of a sudden think in 3 dimensions. I was insulted, especially then when I got into spherical trigonometry, and I was saying, good Lord, they told me to work in 2 dimensions. I worked really well in 2 dimensions. I got good grades dealing with stuff on chalkboards and pieces of paper. And when I got to thinking in 3 dimensions, where I had to think in 3 dimensions to get what they were talking about and get a good grade and all that, it strained my mind. It kind of hurt. And I was insulted. I was insulted. And so what I believe now is that our future of education post-COVID has to be what I call metagalactic. And I will talk about Metagalactics a little bit more, and hopefully will, in subsequent videos, relate that to a couple of different things. One is what the postmodernists got right and wrong about the stories we tell ourselves, and narratives, and linear narratives. And then another dimension that I hope to talk about is the dimension of let me relate to this a minute. Okay, we were talking about postmodernism, and then let's see, where else did I want to go? Oh yeah, and then another dimension would be, or another subject to deal with would be my experience with what I learned at the French Air Force Academy from an instructor pilot about certain students who did really well in navigating and others who did not. So those are two major subjects that I would like to address, and also put that in the context of what metagalactic education, metagalactic thinking is, and what that means about the future of education for our kids. Okay, looking forward to visiting you again soon. Thanks. Bye.